So here's the campus software library. Generally, it's really useful. There's a lot of other programs you can access, but we're going to focus on Stata for this course. So we'll come here. You need to re-authenticate again. University is a kind of curious software security policy that is both very vigorous and arguably not very effective, but that's neither here nor there. So we'll come down, and again, you can see a whole bunch of different things here. Some of these are also really cool. MATLAB, for instance. You can SPSS and SAS or older statistical software if you're curious about them, but we're going to focus on Stata. So we come here to Stata, and there's a bunch of information here, but what we want to do is download Stata. Now, you will need to know what kind of operating system you run. And I know for younger folks, a lot of times y'all are like really, really good at the internet and social media and that sort of thing, far better than I am. But some of these backend things that, you know, if you grew up in the pre-internet age or when home computers were just first starting, you know, you kind of had to learn that stuff. And now I think people are less likely to have learned about things like that. So an operating system is basically like the master software for your computer effectively. So it's usually determined by the type of computer that you're using. And so if you have a Mac computer, you've got basically an operating system that is provisioned by Mac, and the same is true with Windows. Some other computing firms that provide laptops will use Windows in addition to just Windows computers itself or themselves. So you'll probably want to select one of these. I'm going to select Mac because that's the kind of machine I'm running here, but I'm not advocating one system or the other. This is just the computer that happened to be best for this demonstration. You're probably not using Linux unless you're a hardcore computer person, because it's like a very modification friendly operating system. So if I probably, you know, you'll know if you're using Linux. If you have no idea what that is, you're probably not using Linux unless you're using someone else's computer. So we're going to select the correct version. Again, you may need to select Windows depending on your setup. We'll click OK to the end user license agreement. And we're downloading software. And it'll take a little bit because it's a large file. It's over a gigabyte here. Even if it's the Windows version, which is smaller, it's nearly a gigabyte. So we'll let this download a little bit. I may clip this. Now this is going relatively quickly, so maybe we'll just leave this in. Hopefully people are watching this at 1.25 or 1.5 speed, since I do know that I speak very slowly. Later in this semester, I'll post some example code for your data analysis project. And in the past, those are older videos that people have found helpful, and people have reported that they are pretty easy to watch at accelerated speed. So I do know that I speak slowly. Okay, and it should be done just about now. And so we're going to open Stata. You can click on this little icon here. And we can open Stata here. It may take just a moment to do that. All right, you'll get this verifying message, possibly. This is just basically the computer checking out Stata, making sure that it's okay to run on my computer. Opening still. Part's a little tedious. Okay, so now we need to do this basic installation process, and this shouldn't be too difficult. Basically, we'll just want to double-click install Stata. And a lot of this is now fairly user-friendly. You'll want to agree to all of these licensing agreements. Now, here you do need to be a little bit careful. Which sort of program do you want to install? So if you come over here, you'll notice that for almost everyone, I think you'll be licensed for the SE version of the software. So we do need to make sure to select that and not one of these others. Now, one thing to note briefly is that the size is pretty large too. I would guess most people have room for this on their computers. I actually, because of my music library, don't even have room on my own computer to install Stata again, which is another reason I'm using this other computer. So double check if you are most likely if you're into music, or if you maybe do a lot of video editing too, you may well not have much space on your computer. So if those apply to you, nothing catastrophic will happen, but you may need to make space. It's a pretty large program. So we need 2 gigs. This computer has plenty left, but that may not apply to you. So make sure to select SE if that is what you have, and very likely it will be. We get this warning again, and we're going to install. We need to enter our password. And here we go. There will be some further steps here. While I'm doing this, I might as well make sure that this is in fact recording. Okay. So we'll take a little bit to install here. Okay, and then you'll see that you get this folder here. You can close this. You can move the installer to the trash if you want. Basically, now we've got this Stata folder, and we can open the program by clicking, double clicking on basically the main icon here. You won't need to go into most of these other things. The auto dataset is an example dataset that you may want to use at some point, but you don't need to directly open it. Now, this part threw a lot of people off. I know it seems a little confusing. We need to enter a bunch of information here, and that information comes from this page here. And as I noted in class the other day, although this seems like a general information page, this is actually a page that is specific to you. You had to log in through Canvas to get to this page. You might remember that step. So this information here actually is all your own personal information for Stata. So the simplest thing to do is just copy paste. Organization, you actually don't need to fill in. I think when people tried to fill that in with UW-Madison, it actually didn't work. So no need to fill that in. And you want to copy paste this stuff mostly because it's long strings of alphanumeric code that are hard to copy. Go ahead and register your copy of Stata online. Probably this might take a couple of extra seconds. I don't really remember this part of the process terribly well. Yeah, you can fill this out if you want. I'm not going to fill this out because it would be somewhat misleading since I already have Stata installed. You can fill this out if you want. You really don't need to. So yeah, either way, really. Okay, so now we've got Stata installed. Awesome. This is what the interface looks like. Really quickly, one thing that's useful to do, you may want to get the the history window open. So coming over here and going to window and then history right here. You want to make sure you've got the results window open too, the command window. So far this looks good. We also want to get the variables window open as well. And let's see, I'm hoping to get the history window open to the left. Yeah, I'm going to actually briefly pause this. Well, why don't we do this together actually? So you'll see that it's pretty easy to Google things about Stata. So let's do that. Let's go to Google. And we want to type Stata history window, one on the left-hand side. Okay, and we can see here that we'd really like to have this history window. And so we can just use Control F, which is a nice thing. Let's see. So we'll try view layout sidebar. Okay, and it looks like we've got this set up pretty well. So that may not be the problem. you lay out widescreen, that may be the issue. Here we go. Okay, so we've already solved an initial problem. We wanted this command history on the left-hand side, which is actually used to be the standard, and it's much more functional. And we had the problem that it kept swapping places with the variable window. So we Googled and we found the answer in the Stata manual. It's a pretty typical process. So now we can close this manual. And let's work on getting some of the code.